I'm so glad to finally be able to make this video. I've been wanting to make a video about the Emissary for over a year now. I've outlined several ideas and storyboarded different things, but ultimately I never pulled the trigger and actually wrote and recorded a video until now. So you all are in for a treat because the Emissary is one of the most interesting characters in the Destiny universe, but so few people know her because it is mostly in written lore, and until now we haven't seen her in game really since Season of the Drifter over 6 years ago. So many new players have no idea who this mysterious floating woman with her feet all out is. Now, while I am not a feet guy myself, no matter what my Twitch chat says, I have to admire Bungie giving the people what they want with their teaser. When most players think of the Emissary, they think strange large woman at the end of the Prophecy dungeon staring at you, judging you for your mid DPS. She's not just that. She's had one of the more productive lives within the universe. And if you'd like to read the lore for yourself, I will post a link to the lore book most of this information comes from in the description below. Usually I read the lore, but telling the story of the Emissary, I find myself saying the lore word for word while I paint her story. So I felt it would be kind of redundant. I usually don't go into serious detail when dropping these videos, I paint in broad strokes. But with this, I wanted to be a little more detailed at times for you all to really see her life, to understand the Emissary, why I love this character. The Emissary has gone by more names and lived more lives than any other person in Destiny lore. I'm counting like real lives, not like they're just adopting a new name, not adopting a new life like the Drifter. I'm talking about like they've actually lived a different life, like died and came back. Because depending on how you define deaths in the Destiny universe, she may also have died more than any other person as well. Not like Guardian deaths, real deaths. Deaths of herself. Before the collapse, many people wanted to leave the solar system and get away from the Traveler. They did not trust it. Nasya Sarwar was 27 when she won a lottery to board the Yang Liwei. Carrying the few possessions she owned, including her mother's ashes, she boarded the colony ship and was given the job of a janitor, collecting trash and cleaning. She quickly made friends due to her ability to speak many languages. She didn't hope for much, just that one day she could sleep in one of the cryopods. And like everybody aboard the Yang Liwei, she was caught in a blast from the darkness and the Traveler that sent their ship to another universe. She awoke in the distributary holding only the jar of her mother's ashes. She had no memory of what the jar contained, only that she had to keep it hold it tight. The new awoken lost their memories, so she had no idea what her name was and started going by the new name Nasan Ar. She walked for a while until she found the largest tree she could find and made her home there. Passerbys would help her build a house and eventually built their own houses near her. A small village formed and she was elected mayor. She never liked being mayor and felt trapped, wanting to find herself. One night, she grabbed the jar of her mother's ashes and left the village without a word. She wandered the distributary not knowing where she was going, and would change her job in life as if they were clothes from her closet. She was a corsair for a few weeks, then switched and became a field hand for a whole summer. Then an accountant for a radioactive materials merchant. She quickly grew bored of everything. Eventually, someone suggested she should try to become a treasure hunter. Jumping on the idea, she found herself deep under the ground in a snake-like cavern. She found no treasure, but she did meet a young woman named Shor Ido. Shor introduces Nasan to her boss, where finally after all these years, she finds her true calling. She becomes a translator, but not one that translated languages as all Awoken could understand each other, but to translate something more emotional. Nasan had a gift to be able to convey information and meaning without being condescending. She showed grace even in the middle of arguments. With that gift, she could help end wars. She helped put an end to the Theodisi War, a war between the Economists and the Sanguine. The Sanguine supported the first Awoken Queen, Aelis Lee, while the Economists accused the Queen of betraying all Awoken and denying them godhood. They, like all Awoken, believed that Queen Lee was the first of the Awoken and decided their form and way of life. Later, we find this was a lie and a trick by Marasov, as she was the first and decided all this for them. Even more than that, the Economists believed that they were born of light and dark and had an obligation to help resolve the conflict back in the solar system. The Sanguine felt no obligation and felt those that left on Earth should fend for themselves. Nasan meditated and helped mend the Awoken people. Her friends wanted her to speak publicly to the masses, thinking that they would bring everybody together. She declined, believing that real change only happens in groups fewer than 10. Sometime after the war's end, Nasan stands in a crowd listening to a speech by Morozov. Morozov exclaims they need to go back to Seoul and help those that are suffering. She talks in detail about the dying world they left and the need to go back. Nasan is so moved by the speech she wasn't able to sleep for 4 nights, only knowing she had to leave, to return from where she came. One day, Sarwar introduces Nasan to Mara and pledges herself and her skills, that she will do what she can to convince those that do not wish to leave to come with them. Mara declines, tells Nasan to not convince anyone, but to help them come to terms with a choice they have already made. No matter if they choose to leave or stay, help them with their grief. The day came for them to leave, and for the first time she felt a profound sense of schism. She looked down at the jar she still had, not knowing it contained the remains of her mother. She felt herself wondering who she had left behind and hoping they'd still be alive. The first nights back in the solar system were horrific, called the Long Unquiet Night. The Awoken huddled in ice caves on a comet and were plagued by hallucinations, their tendons vibrating, jaws popping, and seeing flashes of light. They had to put covers on statues so they wouldn't think they were corpses. During all this, Nasan found herself drawn to Mara. Not because of her beauty, but because of her seductive mystery. If this wasn't bad enough, they had discovered the Traveler and the Fallen, causing the Awoken on the reef to riot. Many Awoken left and deserted the rest, leaving to find Earth or other worlds. Nasan was filled with anger, begging Mara to let her go after them, not to convince them to return, but to convince them that Mara wasn't evil, that Mara was just trying to do what was best for all of them, that they had a bad impression of her, just wanting to make sure they understood who Mara was. Mara told her that she didn't care if people hated her, that she didn't need people to understand her grand plan for the Awoken people. Nasan agreed that Mara was strong enough, but also that having goodwill and understanding was a strength that could be used. Mara told her that she could do whatever she felt was best, but if she left, she could never return. Nasan arrived on Earth carrying only a survival kit, a hunting knife, and the silver jar of her mother's ashes. She traveled searching for any other Awoken, but never found one. She wasn't on Earth even 2 weeks before she was killed in her sleep by a band of Risen humans with godlike power. She awoke with a burst of light and shock as a small ghost flew around her head. She asks the ghost what her name was, and he calls her Orin. He asks for a name in return, and she calls him Gol. Gol explains that there may be things that want to harm her nearby, causing her to pick up a small tree branch, wondering if this would be good enough. The ghost scoffs and tells her they have guns. She went to a larger tree, broke it, and crafted a mace, knowing with this that she could crush anyone who attacks her skull in. The settlement that they were trying to reach is smoldering with ash when they get to it. Orin looks around shocked. Children lie dead in the streets. Gol warned her not to go in. He detected a large amount of radiation. Someone set off a nuclear bomb in this town. Orin goes in, ignoring him, while Gol begs her to leave. She starts getting radiation sickness, which means if she dies, he would have to revive her, and she would keep dying of radiation poisoning unless she left. Orin asks if the Fallen did this. Gol says no, most likely a warlord, because no one would be able to stop them, and they can do whatever they want. During their travels, she trades her wooden mace in for a Fallen Scorch Cannon. She had no interest in fighting the Fallen, only attacking them to upgrade her munitions. What she was really after are the warlords. She found herself outnumbered and out of ammunition by a group of mercenaries. The Pilgrim Guards spot her and go to help her as her fighting is graceless. She sees them, not realizing they are coming to her aid, and wonders if she can take on 17 at the same time. The Pilgrim Guard invite Orin to join them. When she accepts, they gift her with a warhammer as tall as her, with the words, "I am the end of all things," engraved on the side. One day, during the Pilgrim Guard's travels, Nasan spots a woman who has the same skin color as her. Having never seen another Awoken since her rebirth as a Risen, she asks if there are more like them. Orin is overcome seeing a person just like her, awkwardly standing too close and staring at the blue woman. The woman cringes and pulls away, saying no. Another person overhears and tells Orin her people don't live on Earth. They live up in the sky, on the asteroids. Orin doesn't understand why they aren't here helping. Orin stays with the Pilgrim Guards for decades, killing warlords, protecting mortals, staving off aliens. But she doesn't feel complete. She felt anxious, even though she was surrounded by people she loved. She wanted nothing more than to leave on her own. The Pilgrim Guard heard rumors of some place down south called the Last Safe City, guarded by warriors who fought alongside 20-foot-tall wolves. They didn't know what a wolf was. They didn't believe the rumors, but still decided to reroute their caravan to see for themselves. If nothing else, maybe the land down south was better for growing crops. They arrived at the city to see nothing but tents and shabby buildings leaning on each other. There wasn't a single permanent structure. The Pilgrim Guard had no interest in staying, but Orin decides to leave the group. For the first time, she feels exhilarated and full of wonder. In this last safe city, she sees other awoken like her, exos, other risen with ghosts, and even more without ghosts. She likes those without ghosts the most, the mortals. Relentlessly, she asks questions to everyone she meets, desperately wanting to know more about her people. Finally, one person took her seriously, an awoken man named Namqui Sen, a pilot from the reef. He offers to take her out for a drink to talk, and she quickly notices he is not a physically attractive person. He wasn't tall or handsome. If she were to just take the small parts of them by themselves, he did have nice hands and a neat nose. What strikes her the most with him is his empathy and ability to listen. It took 8 weeks for Orin to finally convince Namqui to break the awoken law and smuggle her to the reef. They are almost to the Vestian outpost when they are stopped by Sajor Ido, who is not happy when she sees Orin, telling her Mara is going to be very upset. Orin is escorted to Mara's chambers by 2 of the awoken paladins. Her ghost is not allowed in the room. Orin feels like she recognizes Mara, which prompted Mara to ask what she remembered. Orin just shook her head and asks, why did she leave her people? Mara told her that she wanted to be an emissary. Orin is shocked and asked, why did you banish me then if I was just trying to help? That doesn't seem like you. Mara smiled and lied, saying no. The Awoken decides she cannot be punished for returning as she's not the same person as she was when she took her oath. Her smuggler Namqui is not so lucky and is sentenced to 5 years as an indentured servant. Orin's punishment for trespassing, though, is that she is in debt to a future request by the Queen. Orin returned to Earth, accepting her punishment. When she returns to Earth, she is shocked to find her old Pilgrim Guard more popular than ever and back at the last safe city. They are so popular the citizens have started calling them Guardians. While wandering Earth, Orin stays in daily contact with Namqui back on the reef during his indentured servitude. On the day of his release, she begs him to come with her and travel. They travel for centuries and enter a relationship together, working odd jobs in different places. They are very happy. Everything for Orin changes the day Sajor Ido dies. Marasov decided to call in her favor that Orin owes her. Orin leaned on her warhammer while Marasov paced back and forth in the Queen's chambers. Mara told Orin she needs to know who killed Shor. Orin asked if Mara wanted them dead, but Mara isn't sure it was a murder. She tossed to Orin a strange coin that she found on Sajor's dead body. Orin found herself in a deep lunar cave searching for who ended the life of Shor. She's surprised to not find any enemies, but instead clouds of steam and a half-man with tentacles where his face should be. All he says is, "Forgive them." The half-man reached into his robes to pull something out, but before he could take his hand out, Orin grabbed her warhammer, swings it, and smacks him in the chest hard. He flies back, landing on a rock that breaks his spine. The half-man knows he will never be able to stand up straight again. When he hits the ground, something rolled out of his hands. A small silver jar, the same one carrying Orin's mother's ashes. Orin used a knife and pried the jar open, pouring out a thin steam of pale gray powder onto her gloves. When she turns back to look at the half-man, he is gone. After that, Orin started having hallucinations and visions, seeing strangers speak to her in languages she doesn't understand. When she reached out to hold Namqui, she feels as if she's falling through him. As she continues to hunt down Shor's killer, she feels as if someone is crushing her windpipe. Something she has to say but is unable. Somewhere she has to be. Someone she has to be. She's not scared, even though she should be. All she is very lonely. As time went on, her hallucinations grew so bad, she had no idea if she was ever awake or constantly sleeping. She tried to explain to her boyfriend and ghost what it was like. When she sees green, she thinks 9. When she reads purple, she tastes 9. They beg her to stop and rest, telling her the 9 are already known. She leaves with her ghost to hunt for the tentacle-faced half-man. While she is out hunting for the tentacle man, her boyfriend Namqui is killed by the Aphelion along with the other Awoken aboard the RSS Amstress. Orin doesn't find out for months, as no one is able to reach her or her ghost to let them know. She was reading a letter, the last words of Namqui, when she spotted a man named Wu Ming. She felt sick, wanted to cry, but this man was a bonfire, and all she wanted was warmth. They are drawn to each other right away. He is enthralled with her stories of the 9. Wu Ming, known for keeping his guard up, lowers his defenses around her as he listens to her confessions and stories. He finds himself confessing his own secrets, his fear, and his loneliness. How he never asked to be brought back by the light and resents the traveler for his life. Even after they talk, they keep finding excuses to talk more and more, to be in each other's intoxicating company. He tells her he knew her dead boyfriend Namqui, and they grow closer. She hated herself. She was tricked. This man was not Wu Ming. His name is Eli, Dredgen Hope, the Drifter. He was a liar, a murderer, a coward. He is not her friend. He just wanted to make his move, to use her. She hated herself for falling for this man. He never knew Namqui. He lied. She never would have known if not for his friend, Callum Soul. She found out he was a member of Dredgens of Yore and felt disgusted. She didn't know he had never lied to her and was telling her the truth, even though he begged her and pleaded with her, saying, "I never lied." She felt that she could never mend this, so she left to find the 9. She didn't understand why her light was severed, had no idea of the war happening on Earth with the Cabal. She was terrified, and the 9 found they could easily manipulate her in her weakness. They told her her name was not Orin. On her way to the edge of the solar system, she stopped by the Vestian outpost and raided their storerooms, giving her the name Orin the Lost. When she reached the heliopause, she had got out of her ship and started walking in space. Then suddenly, she died. In her death, she shed herself and emerged anew in the glimmering scales of her old life, an immigrant, a translator, an emissary, a hammer of judgment. The 9 expected to claim her will, but she holds on. She knows her gifts can end wars. When she finally found the 9, they warn her that her curiosity may cause her to go mad, to lose her own mind. They tasked her to find 3 worthy keys, and praised her when she did. At that point, she was transformed from Orin into the emissary of the 9. The 9 sent the emissary to find Wu Ming and present him a gift. They had found him worthy. He was most likely one of these worthy keys she found. She boards his ship and gifted him the hull, which attached itself to his ship. She called him Dredgen, and he rebuked that name, saying he went by Drifter now. She would visit him often as he had visions of the Black Fleet. He begged her to stop, but simply told him that the gift was showing him his fate, who he was supposed to be. He lashed out, saying he made his own decisions, no one else. Sometime later, the emissary summoned him into the hall and told him she had enjoyed her time watching him, but she was needed elsewhere. Drifter scoffed and asked if there was anything else he could do for her sarcastically. She simply said, "Keep playing your game," and gave him a jade coin with a pyramid ship on it. After the curse on the Dreaming City, the emissary went to visit Mara in her court. She made an offer to Mara on behalf of the 9, which Mara accepted. Sometime later, the emissary reached out to the Guardians and invited them to prove themselves. She claimed that all fates converged on their choices. The 9 asked the emissary if she was happy with her choices. She said that she was, that she had more freedom with them than she ever did with the light. When the 9 showed them her dead ghost, she said that she never really cared about that. She was then asked about Mara. She told them that Mara could handle herself, and they pressed about what would happen when Mara dies. Orin quickly said, "What has already died cannot die again." They didn't understand. Then she was asked about the Drifter, which annoyed her. They kept asking the same questions, but they never listened, saying Drifter was scared of everything and hated violence, so he dished it out upon those he felt might do the same to him. Then she was asked about the young wolf, and she said they were different and had the power to leave the game if they wanted to. When pressed to explain what she meant by the 9, she said it would be impossible. She was unable to explain the garden game to them. And that is the story of the Emissary that we have at the moment. This was much longer than I had expected. I put in as much detail as I could. Most of this stuff is word for word straight lore, as you know if you click the link below in the description. The Emissary has always fascinated me. She has died more than any other Destiny character. True deaths. A wide-eyed immigrant, Nasya, dying to become an awoken named Nasan, dying to become Orin the Risen, dying to become the Emissary. So many lives lived by one person. Her story is sad, filled with just wanting to feel a purpose, never knowing whose ashes she held in that jar. As we go into Edge of Fate, more of her story will unfold. We see it in the trailer, her shedding the Emissary's skin, becoming Orin again. I do not know if her ghost is still out there or if she is lightless. When the 9 showed her her dead ghost, it wasn't her real dead ghost, it was just projection of her dead ghost. I will say that Bungie is nerfing her though, as she now has shoes. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. This is one of my favorite characters in Destiny lore, and I really want more people to know about her because it's not a lot in game. It's mostly in written lore, or it's in content that's no longer available in Destiny. So people are missing out on the greatness that is the Emissary, is Orin. And as we go into Edge of Fate, people need to know who she is, what her purpose is, what her motivations are, so they're not left behind and confused. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, looking to build my YouTube page up. And remember, hunters never die.